Okay, guys, hello. I have been thinking about making this video for a while, but haven't had the time throughout the week to do it. But now I finally do. And it's something I've been thinking about, so I have some things that I know I want to share throughout this video. It's just the idea of being the quiet kid growing up, but you're neurodivergent on top of that, and you're black and all of these things kind of shaping who you are, shaping your childhood, but also shaping your adulthood, and realizing that you have to sort through these experiences that happened to you when you were younger, because it's not like it just goes away in adulthood unless you actually are aware of it. I grew up in a pretty turbulent household. Things on the outside looked very chill. Things didn't look like there was a problem. It wasn't very obvious to the regular observing eye. And that turbulent household kind of allowed me to develop a lot of low self-esteem from one side of things, right? But then in school, that was compounded. And I've talked about this on previous videos, my neurodivergence. I didn't know what the heck was going on, and that internal shame and feeling like I was flawed without having the answers left me in a pretty bad spot growing up. So school for me, I've talked about my academics in a few videos ago, but socially it has always been very hard. Okay, friends, fitting in, just knowing what to say and not knowing what I could say without being seen as weird. I learned very early to hide certain aspects of myself. Like, I remember in preschool, all the kids had to do a little presentation about what they wanted to be when they grew up. And I just remember me at like 3 or 4 years old being like, I want to be an astronaut, guys. And like saying that with my chest and not worrying about that judgment. And I always compare that time to who I was when the social anxiety developed, because I know it was not always there. Like, I remember when I didn't have it, and that feels so far, that feels so long ago. That feels like forever ago. And it reminds me that we're taught to not like certain aspects of ourselves by society itself, but also by the people we're around and the people that we grow up with. So I was bullied a lot. Okay. And there's plenty of stories to go along with that. And I will pull out some diary entries from my younger years that I'm gonna share with you guys later on. But just in a nutshell, I was bullied for my looks, the way I talked, what I wore, anything to do with my existence, basically. And I've mentioned this before in previous videos as well, that up until high school, I was going to predominantly Black institutions, and I've never been somebody that's like fit into the mold, I guess you could say, of a stereotypical Black woman. And already having that be something that differentiated me on top of my neurodivergence just made me a very easy target. And I always wondered, like, what am I doing wrong? Why don't they like me? I felt like I needed to fix something within myself. Like, I was the problem. And so I spent a pretty good chunk of my life trying to troubleshoot what was wrong, what I was doing. So I developed this sort of self-hatred for myself on top of what I was experiencing at home. And because of what I was experiencing at home, I didn't know how to set boundaries. I didn't know how to differentiate between, oh, am I just being too sensitive? Or is this an actual problem? Was it actually not okay that they said this to me? Or am I overreacting? That does some damage. And something that happened to me a lot in elementary school, middle school, that I did not really realize was that I was oftentimes being used by people. And I was very naive to what people were saying to me because I thought that they were being genuine. I thought that they actually wanted to be my friends. And I craved connection so bad. I was extremely naive to the fact that most of the time people were just using me for their own benefit. And I didn't realize this for years, you guys. Like, I have two examples. The first example was I was in the 5th grade and I knew how to do this specific like pre-algebra question or whatever. And this girl who I had known, I had seen in school, but we had never actually formed an actual friendship. And she asked for help on the question, and we started talking and we started to get closer to each other. It started to become this very transactional thing. Like, she would call me her best friend, and I believed it, right? But as we went on to middle school, I started being left out. She started kind of going her own separate way. And I was like, okay, so this entire friendship, you were just using me. The concept of looking back on yourself at that time and realizing that you were being ditched for the popular kids. Guys, it's insane. Like, it's crazy. I was never really people's first choice, it felt like. And the second incident, I remember this was middle school at this point. So I think I was in 7th grade and I grew up playing the piano. So we had a piano class in 7th grade. And since I had been playing piano for quite a few years at this point, the class was pretty easy for me and I really enjoyed it. I loved it so very much. And I already, again, had that baseline of low self-esteem. And so this guy who is a popular kid, and I can't remember the exact context, but I know that he was struggling with the song that he was trying to play. And so he saw that I had already had that experience with playing the piano and asked for help, and we talked for a little bit and we got closer and closer. And then I realized yet again, wait, this person is just using me. They're so nice to me when they want to get something out of me, but once they get that thing out of me, it's like I'm nothing to them. And so I felt I feel like I was naive because I was so socially inept. Because I didn't really know how to talk to people and I'm socially awkward and I wasn't seen as somebody attractive or desirable to be around for anything other than my abilities. And so I felt very easily discarded by people because it's like, why would you want to be friends with her? Like, that's how I feel like people saw it. I had very early onset acne growing up. My skin is in much, much better condition, okay? And this was basically me from like 5th grade. I mean, it started in 3rd grade, but got probably its worst in 5th grade to 6th grade. And I had to deal with that for quite some time. And that only added to my low self-esteem. But yeah, so that's really all the things that I was dealing with at that time. I coped by writing future letters to myself, journaling about everything that was happening to me as a sense of comfort for myself because I wasn't really telling anybody. I didn't tell anybody that these things were going on. And I also really struggled to know what bullying was. I had this idea that I wasn't really being bullied if I wasn't being physically hit, if people weren't tripping me and like slamming my face into lockers like you see on the movies. I thought that's what bullying was. I didn't realize that these verbal statements and the psychological breakdown of my psyche was also something that could be considered bullying. So I'm going to show you guys some of those letters and journal entries to kind of solidify more of what I was feeling at the time, because it was very much so my coping mechanism Just looking at this, it's insane to see that level of self-hatred that existed in me from such a young age. And that is how long I've spent unlearning this stuff. All right. So this is sad. Okay, trigger warning for anybody who has gone through a similar thing, because so this one is titled I Hate Myself, from November 18th, 2016. It's not funny, but it's just like, oh, this is so sad. Dear me, I know you're not supposed to say it, but I hate myself. Let me just start by telling you what happened today. So you're in social studies. Person one asks you if you can save her a seat because she's saving one for person two. You gladly do so. And in the back of your mind, you're kind of happy because for once you thought someone was actually going to be sitting by you. When person two comes, person one moves out of the seat and places her items on the desk. Before you can even say, "Hi, person one," she's moving the chair to where her friends are. While all of this is happening, you're on your phone, not really caring or noticing what had happened. At the end of the class, person one moves the chair back to the desk and you ask, "Why would you ask me to save you a seat if you weren't going to sit next to me?" And she says, "Oh no, I just wanted you to save me a chair. I wasn't going to sit next to you. You must have misinterpreted. Sorry." And that's like, I just have to stop that right now just to say that's a perfect example of people using me for things and not really wanting to be my friend. And with that, you decided you've had it with her. She had known you for almost 6 years. You weren't really friends with her all that time, but you had been friends for a long while. She never wanted to pick you for her partner unless her friends weren't there. She was always leaving you behind. It made you feel bad. And it wasn't always person one. It was your other friends too. I had always wondered if people didn't like me because I was quiet or not social enough. And you can get rid of the quiet part. I always thought they didn't like me because I was ugly, pimple-faced, unstylish, and because I never did anything different with my hair. I'm always looking at those beautiful Instagram girls on Pinterest, Tumblr, and Instagram, and I always think to myself, if I looked like that, would people like me? Oh, maybe it's not my facial structure. If I had hair like that or clothes like that, then would people like me and want to be my friend? The truth is, I'm not happy. I'm not happy with myself. And then here's another letter titled My Feelings About Everything, Really, from December 3rd, 2016. And there's a section about insecurity, and I'm gonna read that one right now. Oh my gosh, this is so sad for me to read, like genuinely. This topic is a big one for me. I've had premature acne since 3rd grade, and it's always been a struggle for me. I still have it to this day, and it's only worsened. People said things about me like, "Why do you have so much acne?" or "You have really bad acne," and "Are you going through puberty?" And the dumbest of them all, "What's that on your face?" The ones that hurt me the most are when they told me that I needed proactive or asked me if I even washed my face. I remember going home and crying about that. I think it's really stupid how those kids can be so ignorant and how they can even think to ask me these things. It makes me really sad to know that some people don't have any heart for people, to know that they don't care about how people feel and don't have the slightest bit of sympathy. Am I the only one? People think I'm so introverted and asocial when really on the inside, all I want is friends and people to talk to. I don't wear the shoes that they wear. I don't have the clothes that they do. I don't listen to the same music that they do. I don't talk as much as they do. This is exactly the reason why I feel insecure, because I can't walk into my school without the fear that I'm going to be talked about. And then another letter titled, Is This Just How It Is? From April 26, 2017. Dear me, I'm tired of writing these letters about my problems and how I feel about pretty much everything, but this time I think I'm really going to just write what's on my mind. Here's my question. Is this just how it is? Is this just how it's going to be? And I ask that because, well, okay. I know that trying to have the most friends and trying to be liked in school should probably be the least of my concerns. But isn't being loved and liked just a human desire or a need? I ask this question because for years and years, nothing has changed. What I mean by that is, Nothing's changed when it comes to me being liked. Maybe this will explain. Here are my insecurities / what I wish so badly that I could change. Number 1, acne. Number 2, social anxiety. And number 3, appearance. I believe personally that this list is all I need to change to become the person I want to be and for other people to like me. You see how I'm like, how I was trying to problem solve this? Like, I became incredibly obsessed with appearance and looks. It was bad. Those letters are just so important to me because they show the actual layers of what I was feeling underneath everything. And I was oftentimes in my own world at school, and I learned to view being called the quiet kid as a flaw. And even beyond that, just the way I acted, who I was internally. Ooh, did I just move the camera? Oh my God. I learned to view things that weren't flaws as flaws. They became flaws because of the way that I was treated when people saw that in me or saw anything that they deemed as undesirable in me. So I became obsessed with trying to figure out what was wrong with me and why people didn't like me. And there was almost this inability for them to see the other layers at play that shaped me into who I was at that time. I was the type of person, oh, stop moving this camera. Oh my gosh, you guys, everything is falling. Now. But yeah, I was the type of person to bring a journal and just write in it for the duration of my PE classes. I would just sit in a corner or sit somewhere by myself and write in my journal in PE class. I mean, does that not tell you something about me? I liked doing things alone. I preferred to do things alone. I hated group projects. And sometimes I genuinely just didn't have anything to say. Like, I felt that I needed to say more. I needed to have a bigger personality. I needed to look a certain way. And I'm realizing I don't need to force myself into these boxes anymore. I'm realizing that since I'm on the journey of self-rediscovery and self-acceptance, because of that, I feel like I shouldn't be trying to figure out what's wrong with me anymore, so much as just accepting that this is just kind of who I am. I know that I need to be alone sometimes. I know that sometimes I don't want to speak. And I really battle with that because I want to appear normal. I don't want to look like I'm just there. And group settings are always very hard for me. And now that I have this channel where I can be myself, I like who I am. I really like who I am. I've always been a very introspective, artsy person. I'm at the point where I have to ask myself, why are these things flaws to begin with? Why am I trying to fit myself to other people's expectations to begin with? Like, why do I feel the need to be doing this anyway? Is it so bad that I like the things that I like and I wear what I wear and I do what I do and I happen to be more on the quiet side and I keep to myself? Why is that bad? I prefer deeper connections anyway, and I'm at the point where it's like if somebody wants to take the time to get to know me, they're gonna get to know me. And I would want them to know the real me and not the version of me that is trying to be normal. I'm learning to just exist as I am, and I feel like that is the source of true confidence. It's something that I still struggle with in my own way, but I'm at the point where I'm starting to love myself more and more and more every single day. And that just makes me so happy. And it just makes me want to continue on this path. And that's why I say this at the end of every video, but like, that's why this channel is so important to me. This channel is like where I'm having these profound realizations and getting to know myself on a deeper level. And I hope that's can be the case for some of you guys too. So I hope that you could resonate with this. If you did, feel free to share your experiences. I'd like to read about them. Yeah. Outros are still hard. Like, how do you guys do this? Like, just bye, bye, bye. How are y'all doing this?